Today we've got a twofer for you, because today we're not just going to talk about the eye, we're also going to talk about the ruins. The eye, the ruins, the pyramid. There's so many the add next to it, and you've got a horror film. The cabin in the woods, the shed, the ruins, the eye, the pyramid, the icebergs, the shadow, the X-Man, the hotel, fucking what? If you want to make a horror movie, pretty much just say the blank, and you've got one. You've got one. Oh, here's another one here. The Order. I've got one up here called The Order. Anything else with the next to it? Oh, there's The Prestige. Oh, nice. That's actually a pretty good one, though. What else do I have that has the next to it? Oh, The Divide, The Frantic, The Gathering. I'm not going to go through any others that I'm looking at right now. I just wanted to let you know that there's a lot of films with the blah blah blah. We're going to start with The Eye. The Eye opens with Jessica Alba, who happens to be blind. She had a tragic accident when she was young, about 5 years old, her character that is, and this rendered her blind, and this also rendered her older sister incredibly guilty because she blames herself for what happened. So she has been pushing for Jessica Alba's character, to get a surgery done to get her eyes back. Each time, science has figured more and more ways to get your sight back. And this time, in an undisclosed moment in time, probably in our past now, but in this film's time of making's future, they have a whatever that allows you to take the eyes that work from somebody else's head and place them into your head, and they'll connect all the nerve endings to your brain and all that other connecting the wires and all that stuff so it can work jury-rigging the eyes to work. And that's what happens. And Jessica Alba can see again. But the problem is, she sees dead people now. And she dreams of horrific flames, and she doesn't know what's going on. Pity. You won't believe her eyes. Nobody else does too. This is one of those cliche horror films, and it's based off a Chinese horror film that's probably a lot better than this. But it's during that time period where every single horror film was pretty much the same. They use the exact same tropes, they use the exact same ideas, they use the exact same settings, and whatever. There's some cheap jump scares in here. There's some cheap ideas and settings. There's a scene in a hospital in the middle of the night, and of course it's empty, because I don't understand why so many of these horror films seem to think that nobody works in hospitals in the middle of the night. Because, guess what? The night shift actually exists. It does. The night shift exists. There is a nurse at the nursing station, at least one of them, at all times, every day, 24/7. There will be at least one person at that nursing station to deal with all of the patients who are spending the night there. You're not just going to be left on your own? Of course not. And of course we have the ICU, which is always fully staffed 24/7. It's just, whatever. But there's so many films that do this that really grates my gears, and this one does it as well. It spends a lot of time in a hotel, in a hospital, in the middle of the night, and nobody's there except for her, and it's not a dream. I can forgive horror segments with the person alone in the hospital. If it's a dream, they're dreaming that this is happening, that nobody's in the hospital. Guess what? This isn't a dream. Okay? The hospital really is empty in the middle of the night. You should probably close that place down. It's understaffed. You need people there in the middle of the night, you know? What if somebody, like her character clearly does, needs help in the middle of the night, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not gonna keep going on about that. So Jessica Alba gets eyes to see, and she starts to see dead people. That's basically the whole film. And then she discovers who that person's eyes she got. Her donor, her organ donor, the eye organ donor, the person whose eyes she took belonged to, she finds that person in Mexico. I don't know how they managed to do that scientifically, with the whole, when a person dies, they take her eyes and they ship them all the way across the country to plant them into Jessica Alba's. I don't know how that happens. I don't know. There's a lot of suspension of disbelief that you have to do to figure this out. So throughout most of the film, she freaks out about dead people, and nobody believes her, because of course everybody's a skeptic. Everybody's a skeptic. There's not even a person that is even mildly amused or interested in this idea that this person can see dead people. They don't even entertain that idea. Everybody's just skeptical and says, oh, you're just saying things. You're just gonna have to figure things. It's your eyes and your brain. Try to remember the So throughout the first half of the film, the first 2 acts, we eventually get to Mexico, and she finds the mother of the person whose eyes that she has now. And she learns that the person whose eyes that she has now, the person who's this is gonna help both of us. This is Jessica Alba. These are her dead eyes. She is blind. This is person in Mexico. These are eyes that work. She has oracle eyes. She can see the future. She can see the past. She can see people who are about to die and all that crap. And she can see dead people, and it freaks her out. And life basically turns her life, flip-turn upside down, until she eventually is not around anymore. But her eyes are. So hospital people, let's call this the hospital truck right here. So the hospital people yoink her eyes and put them into Jessica Alba's head. Okay? So we're going to call them the Oracle Eyes, and we're going to start calling her the Oracle. Okay? So, Jessica Alba goes to Mexico to find out whose the Oracle is to whom her Oracle Eyes belong. You can't understand a single goddamn thing that that I have on this piece of paper, but it just helps me organize things. So that's why I'm drawing it around. So she's over in Mexico trying to figure out what's going on with the Oracle, and she meets the mother of the Oracle, and she learns that the Oracle was an Oracle who had a very unhappy life, because everybody in Mexico was superstitious, and they called her a bruja, they called her a witch, and then she eventually decided that she didn't like the train that she was living on. She didn't like the train that she was riding in, and she decided to get off the train before the train decided to stop. If that makes sense to you, if I'm trying to be very nice about this. So she jumped off the train a bit too early, but her eyes were salvageable. They put her in her head, and she's starting to see visions and ghosts and all that crap. And that's fine. If she could see ghosts, that's fine. It's eyes. Eyes can see. Eyes see things, right? Well, oddly, she's also hearing ghosts, right? Jessica Alba is hearing ghosts. She could even touch the ghosts and all that stuff. So I don't know how any of this is working. We just have to suspend our disbelief and make it superstitious, supernatural land. It's fiction. And then she figures out that the Oracle lady from beyond the grave is trying to tell Jessica Alba to save a bus full of people from the Mexican to U.S. checkpoint here from a gas explosion that was going to blow up, that she died before she could figure out how to stop everybody. So Jessica Alba saves everybody, but in the explosion she loses her eyesight again. And now she's blind again to the end of the film, and she plays the violin. Happy days. And that's the Eye. That's the Eye. This is a safe movie in regards to complete and utter unoriginal ideas thrown in to a very interesting concept. I really like the idea of putting an oracle's eyes into blind Jessica Alba's face, so that she could start seeing ghosts and crap. I like that idea, but the initiation, they didn't stick their landing. They didn't stick it at all. Let's start with the ruins now. The ruins I don't need a piece of paper to go crazy with. so we're gonna throw that away. With the ruins, we have a Mayan ruin that a group of college-age students go to visit. This Mayan ruin is surrounded by a forest in the Central American wilderness, and they get trapped there because the natives of this Mayan ruin, I think I once again need to show you with a little diagram, with a little graph here. Fine. Let's say this is the forest. Everything out here is a forest jungle. And for some odd reason, there's a Mayan pyramid right in the middle of it all, right? So let's say that's the Mayan little pyramid. There's nothing's growing at all in the right here, but there's a bunch of dense jungle here. So what's going on? Why is there nothing growing here? Well, as our college students come in through the forest to find the jungle, find the pyramid or whatever, a bunch of natives, I'm gonna call them natives, come charging in with bows and arrows and guns, and they start yelling at the college students in tongues, and they scare the college students. Nobody understands what the Mayans are saying. I'm gonna assume they're Mayans. They're descendants of the culture of this region. That's what I'm gonna call it. So the natives are yelling at the college students in their own tongue. And of course, the college students that speak only English do not understand the tongue of the natives, so there's a big communication problem. One of the college students touches some foliage, some green foliage that has completely overgrowthed the Mayan pyramid. One of the college students touches the pyramid, and suddenly all of the little natives start freaking out, pointing their guns and weapons at the college students, yelling at them to go up the pyramid, to get onto the pyramid. So the college students naturally start to feel a bit upset at this. And then the Mayans attack and kill one of the people. So the college students climb onto the pyramid, and we spend the rest of the movie on the pyramid as they try to figure out what's going on. Well, we will eventually learn that these guys, the natives that have surrounded the Mayan pyramid, they're tossing salt onto the soil to prevent anything from growing. They're quarantining this pyramid and all of the growth on this pyramid. They're trying to prevent it from getting out anywhere else. All of the birds, all of the plant life, all of the birds and bugs and all that stuff, they know not to go near this pyramid. So that something nature-wise is unnatural on this pyramid. And you probably can't figure out a darn thing there. These are usually just for me to organize my own thoughts, because goodness gracious, how do I even begin with these things sometimes? But I just had to throw this one out here. I had to talk about this one because the film doesn't answer any of the questions that I want to ask. It doesn't answer any of them. It's so mysterious. And then it ends with all of the questions that you have intact. What are these strange plants that are somehow alive? If you've ever watched Jumanji, and you watched the vine section of the movie Jumanji, the Robin Williams one, not the Welcome to the Jungle one, the Robin Williams one, with the vines that are growing throughout the library room, it's like those things are on this pyramid, and you're like, what are they? Where'd they come from? Why are they here? What's going on with them? We don't get any answers. We just have these plants on this pyramid slowly kill, one by one, the college students until there are only two left. The main dude and the main girl. And so the main dude tries to pose a distraction to the natives. He poses a distraction over here. He walks over here, leaving the girl on the floor there. Everybody thinks she's dead, so everybody walks over here to the dude. And he's freaking out. He's trying to cause a distraction. He runs at the Mayans, and all the Mayans kill the main dude. And then the girl runs off into the foliage, and then the film ends. We don't really have any recovery there. There's no aftermath there. We have no idea what's going on with her. We don't know if she's infected with whatever's going on here. It just ends. The film just ends. So let's start talking about what these plants are. Let's say we have here the secondary main girl. Let's call this the secondary main girl, Girl 2. So Girl 2 gets wounded in her leg in a fall exploring the ruins. She climbs out of the Mayan ruins and meets up with all the other college students because they're trying to figure out what's going on here, right? So they sleep in a tent in the middle of the night. Girl 2 wakes up and finds that her leg has become engulfed in vines while she had slept, and they seem to be growing out of her wound. They seem to be coming out of her wound. So whatever it is has seeped into her bloodstream, oddly. So she's grabbing at the vines, trying to pull them out. And the following day, she just gets progressively and progressively worse. The vines, whatever it is that had gotten into her bloodstream, spread up into her hips, onto her arms, her shoulders, her other leg, and even her head. The vines are in her head, right? And so at the end of the film, we even see the vines start coming out of her head because she cut open her forehead to try to pull this crap out. Because she can feel the vines, whatever this crap is, it's growing throughout her body. It seems to feed on blood, which is very fascinating. I find this setting, the Mayan temple, and all the plants, I find it so fascinating. I don't care about any of the college students or the characters in this film, but the setting is so friggin' interesting. Just like the Pyramid movie, I didn't care about any of the characters in that, but the setting, the pyramid, the floor, the sets, the stages, all of the ideas are really, really good ideas, but the initiation, the whatever, it didn't work. It just did not work. You had to answer some of these questions that I had. Yeah, I have. You had to answer some of these questions. What are these plants? Where'd they come from? Why did they grow throughout the body? What happened to the society here? Maybe these plants ended up killing all of the people who lived here, and all of the Mayans or whatever that guard this temple. Maybe they're the descendants of the survivors of this lost civilization. So you have to make a lot of assumptions. You have to assume 90% of this film's story for them. You have to answer all these questions for them. They leave it open to a lot of interpretation. And while I'm fine with viewer interpretation to make the experience your own subjective experience, I also believe in firm, solid storytelling. Answer some of these questions. At least answer what the plants are. Because, like, in the pyramid, they at least answered what Anubis was. But they don't answer a single thing in the ruins. We have no idea what's going on here. It just kills everybody. The last survivor runs off, and then the film ends. We have no idea what happens with the vines. We have no idea how it gets to the bloodstream. We have no idea where it comes from. We have no idea what happened to the people here. We have no idea. No clue. Maybe there's some behind-the-scenes answers that I just haven't looked up yet, but just from a casual viewer's experience, there's nothing. Maybe there's some bonus features on here. Let's take a look, shall we? Never before seen alternate ending. 3 deleted scenes. Behind-the-scenes featurettes. Commentary by director Carter Smith and editor Jeff Betancourt, and more. You want to know what my theory is? I'm thinking that if you watched the commentary for this film, which a lot of streaming services and crap, they don't have director commentary and stuff, you gotta buy the hard copy for that type of crap. But I'm thinking that a lot of these questions are answered in like a commentary viewing. If you watch the movie once, then you watch it a second time with the commentary on. And then you have the director talking about all the crap going on, talking about this, and telling stories about how they shot the thing and whatever. Maybe he answers these questions, but guess what? For a single viewing, without commentary, without any external crap, The film itself should answer the bulk of the questions that the film itself produces. That's my opinion, at least. I really like this film. I really like the concept of this film. It's got a decent enough cast to keep the runtime without boring you. I really find the Vines interesting, but I know nothing about them. Nobody in the film knows anything about them, and no answers could ever be had about them. I would have liked maybe a scene where the characters find the corpse of one of the people who had previously visited this place, and maybe he had a journal, or maybe he had a tape recorder. So they take that back up to the surface of the temple where there are no plants, and they play back the recording, or read through the journal and learn what that guy had found out. That maybe he found out that these plants are from another, that these plants are the source of maybe like an old ancient mythos culture that the people here worshipped, and then they sacrificed people to the plants, but then something got out of control, and the plants got out of control, and they covered the whole pyramid, and so the survivors got out of the pyramid, and they burned the forest surrounding this place to keep whatever was in here from getting out. Like just simple things like that. That would have been fine. Just give it about 4 or 5 minutes of backstory. Talk about these plants and what's going on. Because from start to finish, you have no idea what's happening in these ruins. You have no idea. No idea. None. None. And I'm fine with, I'm doing my own subjective interpretation, but I shouldn't have to sometimes, I shouldn't have to make up the entire story for the film. I shouldn't have to do that, but I'm so friggin' curious. I want to know what's going on here. I'm so friggin' curious about this film. And the lore, the setting, the pyramid, all of that. I want to know the answers. I want to know what's going on. And the film doesn't tell me. It doesn't tell me a single thing. Leaving me very disappointed, but aching for more. It's both genius and asinine at the same time. So that's The Ruins, and I highly recommend it, even though it doesn't answer a single question that I, as a very, very inquisitive viewer, would have. You, as a viewer who may not be as inquisitive as me, maybe you are just as inquisitive as me, maybe your own subjective experience watching The Ruins would be far more pleasurable without you having to ruin your experience asking so many questions the film will not answer for you. But I can't recommend this enough. It's a very interesting film. If you want to skip the eye, you can go ahead. If you want to skip the eye, you can go right ahead. But if you want to watch the eye, if you want to watch The Ruins, then by all means. The eye is harmless. It's got a lot of unoriginal settings, like the empty hospital in the middle of the night that I'm really getting sick of. But it's harmless. It's harmless. They're both harmless movies. This one at least answers all the questions that the start of the film poses. This one doesn't answer any of them. But I don't know which one's a good or a bad thing. This one leaves you perfectly satisfied at the end that you're not going to have any questions to talk about. While this one gives you a lot of questions that you do want to talk about and discuss with people and try to figure out what's going on. So, I don't know. It's a directorial idea, a writer's idea to leave some out to make you question things, but I feel like they could have put a couple more things in here. They could have put a couple more things in here. But it's still a very interesting setting. It's still a very interesting movie. Give this one a watch. If you're morbidly curious, watch this one, but definitely watch this one. Be imaginative, everybody.